Hello, boys and girls, all you college grads looking for a job. Welcome to Module 8 of LifeLaunch. In this module, we're going to talk about salary negotiations and juggling multiple offers. We all want you to be juggling multiple offers. So you're almost done with this program, although you may have jumped up here just because you have an interview coming up and you wanted to know about this. So I want to remind you that you might get more out of it if you go back and go through modules 1 through 7. But here we go on salary negotiations and how to juggle multiple offers. As with all of LifeLaunch, these are based on 3 of my books: Cracking the Hidden Job Market, How to Get Any Job, and The Overnight Resume. Cracking the Hidden Job Market and How to Get Any Job has the material that that's in this module. So at the last scene, the last screen of this video has the resources that will lead you to supporting documents, including my website, which has a white paper on salary negotiations. So after you watch this, if you want to go look at that white paper, it's free and open to the public 24 hours a day. You're welcome to share that with anyone. Okay, so let's talk about negotiating for salary. Sometimes students are a little bit reluctant to do it because they feel, first of all, they fear that an employer will withdraw an offer. So I want to assure you that everything I'm teaching you is called win-win negotiating style. I'm not teaching you the kind of ultimatums that get you thrown out of an office. So I want you to have some confidence that you can do this. Also, it costs a lot of money not to negotiate for salary. I have several different analyses, but it costs around $1 million not to negotiate for salary right after you graduate from college. And there's some ramifications that are not immediately obvious. When you don't negotiate for salary, employers actually think that they made a mistake by making an offer to you, and they reduce their opinion of your skill set, and that has a lot of ramifications. They may give you less challenging assignments. They're certainly going to pay you less. So everybody negotiates for salary. And then finally, I have some messages in this module for women in particular. Negotiating for salary, or the lack of negotiating for salary, is a major contributor to the gender-based wage gap. Women are equally successful at negotiating for salary as men, but they don't negotiate at the same rate. And so we need 100% of women to negotiate also. So here we go. We're going to talk about some techniques. First, we want to talk about recruiters and what they expect. Well, it turns out that 92% of recruiters that are members of SHRM, that's the Society for Human Resources Management, they say 92% of them say that salaries are negotiable, and 82% of them expect you to negotiate for salary. So please don't let them down. When you sit down with a recruiter, you're going to negotiate for salary. It's not going to scare them. They're going to expect it. So there's 3 rules for all negotiations. So I'm going to give you these 3 rules. If you spent a weekend at an elite business center studying negotiations for $15,000, they would teach you these same 3 rules. So it's not just salary negotiations that we're talking about, but it's really everything. So the first rule is you don't negotiate until the other person decides to buy. So premature negotiations are not negotiations because you're just losing territory. So in a job search, you never negotiate for salary until they make a job offer to you. They may bring the salary up. They may want to talk about it, but don't negotiate. I can teach you how to deflect that so it doesn't come up. The only time you have power over a recruiter or a hiring manager or the other company is after they offer you the position and until you accept or decline the position. That's the only time you have power, and that's the only time that you negotiate. So we'll talk more about that. The next thing is, the first person to name an exact figure has lost competitive advantage. So when you watch people negotiate, if they say a number first, they've not been trained in how to negotiate. And then the third principle of all negotiations is, if you can't stand up and walk away, you're not actually negotiating, you're begging. So no matter how much you want that job, in the back of your mind, I want you to remember, you don't have to take this job. If the salary cannot be made square and it doesn't seem fair, then you need to tell them, you know, it's been really nice meeting all of you people, but we just can't get together on the salary. I am so sorry. And then you can stand up and leave. Those are the 3 principles of all negotiations. You don't negotiate until the other party buys. The first person to name an exact figure has lost competitive advantage. And if you can't get up and walk away, you're not negotiating at all. So I give you an overview. Now we're going to kind of go into how each one of those comes into play. Okay, so what do you do if salary comes up before they offer you the position? How do you keep from getting bogged down talking about salary? And it will feel like negotiations when it's really not. So if salary comes up before they offer you the position, you need to deflect that inquiry and kind of bring the focus back to the job and the fit and match. So if they say, what's it going to take to bring you on board? I'll teach you a series of deflections. And then I want you to remember that these are on my website. If you go to my website, on the banner on the right, it says salary negotiations, and you can go look at this wording later. No problem, and that's absolutely free. It's also in my book, of course, Cracking the Hidden Job Market, and my other book, How to Get Any Job. So if they ask you, what's it going to take to bring you on board? You might say back to them as a deflection, I'm really not obsessed about salary. I'm sure you're going to make a competitive offer. I'm really more interested in this opportunity and the people I'll get to work with. That's way more interesting for me. Could I ask you a few more questions about the job and the people I'll be working with? That's a deflection. So they ask you again, what's it going to take to bring you on board? You can say something like, I'm sure that when they sent you out to recruit for this position, they gave you kind of a range for it. Do you mind sharing that range with me now? Now, since they asked you for a number and you asked right back for a number, a lot of recruiters feel a little bit constrained, and they may name a number. So no matter what number they name, you simply say, oh, we're in the same ballpark. As I said, I'm not really obsessed about the details of compensation as long as it's fair. So we're still in the same ballpark. Let me ask you some more questions about the position. Now, there's some things you can do that are a little bit aggressive. I'm going to teach them to you. That's kind of MBA level. But you can learn these and you can try them out. So let's say they keep asking about it. Then you can say, let's say the guy's name is Paul. Hey, Paul, no offense, man, but this is the third time you've brought up the salary. Is there a problem with the salary? Then Paul's going to say, oh, no, there's no problem with the salary. And then you're going to say, great, I'm sure it's not going to be a problem on my side either. So let me ask you some more questions about the position. That's a kind of aggressive deflection, but it does work. So those are deflections. And again, there's more of them on my website. Remember that the second principle of all negotiations is the first person to name an exact figure has lost competitive advantage. So if you can't get the recruiter to name a rough figure, then give what I call a ridiculously large range. So if they really, kind of beat you up and put you in the corner and say, I need a number, give them a really large range. So let's say I'm making up a position, marketing assistant. And so you say to the recruiter, in my research on marketing assistants, it turns out there's kind of a wide salary band. I found everything from, like 30,000 up to like 65, 90,000 even. So is this position going to fall in that range? Now, you didn't give up anything because your range is ridiculously large. And then the recruiter's going to say, yes, our position falls in this range. And then you're going to say, great, I don't see a problem for us. There you go. That's how you do it. I could do this all day. With a little practice, you can too. Now, one little kind of a warning. They do this every day, and you're going to do it about 7 times in your lifetime. So if you get pushed into a corner and you actually blurt out a number, don't feel bound by that. No big deal. Just don't feel bound by it. I can teach you how to get out of it, even if you named a specific number. So before you go into any meeting, you do want to try to find out what the position pays or what something like this pays. But don't worry if it looks like it's too low, because if they love you, the number can be increased greatly. So let's talk about how you find out what is typical pay. My favorite is the salary information at jobstar.org. I think they have the most robust set of data. That's a great place to start. And then, of course, everybody knows about salary.com. And then let's talk about payscale.com and glassdoor.com and salaryexpert.com. And then let's talk about association surveys. All of these kind of general locations, websites, they tend to run a little bit high. So if you find a salary in there, it's going to look a little higher than the real world. And that has to do with the fact that they usually survey major employers and high-paying employers. That's why I like association surveys. They're a little bit more sophisticated. And then if you can work with your Career Center, you can access naceweb.org, which has salary data on it, and the MBA CSEA, which has salary data for MBAs, and then the Bureau of Labor Statistics also has salary data, so you see those on your screen. Now, I have a couple of warnings about these salary sites. They're a blunt instrument at best. An associate in retail and an associate in investment banking both have the same title. One makes minimum wage and the other one makes easily several $100,000 a year. So I want you, they're blunt instruments. Secondly, they favor high-paying employers and urban areas. So if you're in a rural area, these data are not going to be entirely accurate. But this is a great place to start. And of course, your Career Center can give you some guidance as well. And another thing to consider when you're looking at a salary is it an urban area, suburban area, high-cost area, or a low-cost area? So a job in Chicago is going to pay more than the same job in Peoria. So my question is always is $45,000 in Tulsa more than $65,000 in Dallas? Is that more than $85,000 in San Francisco? And you need to find these things out. And you find out with relocation calculators. These are calculators provided mostly by moving companies that allow you to assess how much the cost of living is in different places in the country so that you can evaluate an offer compared to other similar offers. Relocation calculators that I like are quintcareers.com/relocation, CNN's Money Area, they have a calculator for cost of living, HomeFair, Stevens Worldwide, Beacons Moving, Bankrate.com, and Moving.com. These are great sources for you to learn about the cost of living in different places in the United States. Again, a blunt instrument. If you have kids, the equation is very different than if you're a single person who goes out at night. So don't obsess over these. So let's say that you've done this perfectly and you get to a final meeting, maybe the third or it may be the fifth or even the sixth interview, and finally you're sitting down to negotiate the salary. So they're going to make an offer to you. And so if they make an offer to you, they may say, what's it going to take to bring you on board? And you say, well, are you making me the offer today? And if they say no, then you say, well, it seems a little premature to negotiate the terms of an offer you're not quite ready to make yet. As soon as you're ready to make an offer, I'm sure we can work out the details. But if they say, yes, we're ready to make an offer to you, then you say, great, what terms are you offering? And that's going to ferret out a salary offer from them. Now, let's say that that salary offer matches the lowball number that you gave prior. Don't feel bound by that. I want you then to say to the recruiter or the line manager, gosh, when I named that number 2 interviews ago, I didn't know as much about the market and as much about your company as I now know. I would be more comfortable with a larger number now that I know more about the opportunity. So I want you not to feel bound by that. So I want you to be very nice, smile a lot. If you want to make the maximum out of your salary negotiations, smile a lot. And then I want you to use win-win language. Put both you and the manager on the same side of the problem. And here's how you do that. You say things like, Jane, I really like this company, but the salary offer, I'm just wondering, I was hoping for it to be a little higher. What can we do about that? And by saying, what can we do about that, it puts you and her on the same side of the problem. So just memorize this sentence. If you leave this module with nothing but this sentence, you're going to make thousands of extra dollars. I was really hoping for more than that. I love this opportunity. I hope we can work it out. So what can we do to make that number a little higher? What can we do? Now, they may say to you, we don't negotiate salary. Now, if that's true, then please don't act angry or disappointed. Say, oh, no problem at all. I just had to try. I was trained by my Career Center and the people have been helping me find a job to ask. But I understand if you don't negotiate, that's fine. I love this opportunity. I'm inclined to take it. I need some time to think about it. How long do I have to consider the offer? That would be the way you respond if they say they don't negotiate. But you can push a little bit. You can also say to them, I understand that you normally don't negotiate, but under what circumstances in the past have you moved these numbers? That's not confrontational. If they say we never move the numbers, then boom, you know the answer. But sometimes they'll say something really interesting like, well, if you have a higher offer, we are inclined to match it. Now you know what it takes to get a higher offer from this organization. So it's okay, one little push, even if they say they never negotiate. But let's say that they move the numbers. Don't think that we're done here. Okay, so I'm just going to pick a number out of the hat, 50,000. So they say, well, we could move it up to 52. You say, great, I'm so excited that you're willing to work with me on this. 52, that's fantastic. Is there any more room? Okay, now don't be in a hurry and let silence fill up the room. As long as you're nice and you're pleasant, you smile a lot, silence doesn't hurt you. That's part of negotiations. And when they say, no, we can't go any further than that, or if they get mad at all, then I'm going to recommend that you stop negotiating. Now, there's a lot more to this, but I've given you the basics. I hope that you see that you can negotiate for salary. Use win-win language, put both of you on the same side of the problem, Ask them questions like, under what circumstances have you moved these numbers in the past, and is this the highest offer that I can get? Next, we want to talk about some specific language that women can use so that they can succeed in negotiating. So recent research has come up with some interesting differences, gender differences in negotiations. When a man negotiates fairly aggressively, it doesn't cost him anything. He's not thought poorly of. But sometimes if a woman negotiates using the same language, she's thought to be kind of avaricious. And so I want to teach you some language that women can use that's very successful and proven to work. You need to negotiate on behalf of something larger than yourself. So it's not for you that you're negotiating. It's either for your family or for your kids. But I like it when women negotiate on behalf of all women. So I'm going to give this language. We're going to put it on the screen and I'll read it. And I think you'll see this very effective and will not cause you to seem like you're just interested in yourself. Here we go. You might say, I've read that a major cause of the gender-based wage gap is that women don't negotiate for salary as often as men. So because I want to do my part to reduce this social problem, I guess I have to force myself to ask, can you raise this base? Would you give me the same base as a man who negotiated hard for the maximum? So it's great language. I want you to use it, and it's totally safe. All right, go get them. So let's talk about like the end game. You've been at this for weeks or even months, and you start to get really good at looking for work, and you start to get offers. So how do you juggle multiple offers, and how do you decline when something doesn't seem right? First of all, I would be very careful about declining because it's hard to get a job offer. Think twice about declining. But let's talk about multiple offers at the same time. What you really want to do is get your first choice opportunity to give you an offer first. So you want to target them and kind of move them forward. And when you feel like you're about to get an offer from them, you call up everybody that you're live with and you say, hey, I feel like I'm about to get an offer from this company. I really like you guys though. What's our status? This is really fascinating because employers hate to lose. They hate to lose you to someone else. So somebody that might not have hired you when they hear this suddenly gets interested in you, looks more carefully at your background. And so let's talk about timing. You can speed up or slow down a job search with any particular employer. So if they offer you an opportunity to interview on next Wednesday or Thursday, you always say, how is Tuesday available? That speeds it up. Or if you say, I've got something on Wednesday and Thursday, would Friday work? That slows it down. So you have a little say in whether this goes fast or slowly. And you try to ferret out multiple offers at the same time. So if you get an offer, you can say yes on the spot. Young people can say yes on the spot. But sometimes it's a little more sophisticated to say, how long do I have to consider this? You know, and normally they'll give you overnight or 3 days. Sometimes they'll give you longer, but overnight or 3 days, pretty much there's something wrong if they won't give you those. And then you're on the phone to everyone else saying, I'm sitting on an offer, but I really like you guys. What can we do? Sometimes you'll get multiple offers, and then you can play employers off against each other. Now, I want you to be careful. Employers cannot always raise your salary offer. They can't. Let's say I'm going to hire 23 analysts this year, and they're all going to be based in New York. They're going to have a very narrow salary band. I can't raise you above the other people. So no matter how hard you push me, I can't do it. But if you're the only person I'm hiring, then always the salary will be kind of pushable. So those are some parameters for you to think about as you're trying to manage the end game. Now be really careful not to push an employer too hard because you want to have a good feeling at the end of this. That's win-win. If you do it right, they're going to be super delighted that they managed to hire you. All right, and so the next module is about onboarding, building a reputation, and getting your first promotion. So good on you for being all the way to here. I hope you'll finish the badge system and get your credential. Thank you very much.